Hi, and thanks for taking some time to watch today's Connect video. It's May 26, Tuesday, May 26, 2026. Our focus this year, our theme this year at the church here is being kingdom builders. So we're busy to try and focus on building the kingdom, not just our church, but the whole kingdom of God. My name is Steve Van Kley. I'm the lead pastor here at Canyon del Oro Bible Church. We're in Oro Valley, Arizona, which is just to the north of Tucson. And in today's video, what I want to do is take a look at Gen Z and their faith, their religious interests, their attendance at religious services, and different things like that. So Gen Z, let's make sure we're on the same page first of all. So Gen Z is the term or title that's used to describe Americans who were born in the late 90s and into the early 2000s. And some give the specific range from 1997 to 2012. Now, one of the biggest headlines recently that includes a large chunk of Gen Z is from a recent Gallup study published just last month in April of 2026. And here's the headline on the study. Quote, "Rise in young men's religiosity realigns gender gap." Now, this is talking about a big shift that's occurred. And the focus here on the Gallup study is on those 18 to 29-year-old men and women, all right? And it's also another important thing here in the study. When it talks about religion and religiosity, it's not focusing only on Christianity. It's including all religions. So you have Christianity, you have Islam, and other faith practices in here. The majority is still Christian in the country in that sense, but it's more than just that, okay? So, for the past several decades, women have been more interested in religion than men. And this is still true when you look at the demographic groups of men and women over the age of 30. And we'll look at that in just a few minutes. But the headline in this study is referring to the gender gap, which is the normal gap we've seen for many years regarding women's interest in faith compared to men's interest in faith. There's been a big gap between the genders, all right? Women have been far more interested in faith issues than men, but not anymore when it comes to the younger men. Now young men in the U.S. have now surpassed young women in saying that religion is very important in their lives. Now I'm going to show you a handful of charts, which I think is the best way to help communicate these numbers if we see them. Not just hear these statistics, right? So looking at this chart, since 2000 and 2001, women have been on a steady decline regarding their religious interest. Women are here indicated by the green line, if you can pick that up on your device that you're watching this on, and men are tracked here by the blue or black line. And we see a steady decline for all groups. And the chart on the left starts at 2000, 2001 in that year and ends in 24, 25. Men have also been on a steady decline, as I mentioned, until 2022 and 2023. And then there's this dramatic shift, as you can see on that chart. They jump up to 42%. Here's a quote from the study. Quote, "Gallup's latest data from 2024 to 2025 show 42% of young men saying religion is very important to them, up sharply from 28% just a few years ago in 2022 and 2023. And by contrast, during that same period, women's attachment to religion has held steady at right around that 29 to 30% mark. Now, for comparison to other age groups, I think this is a helpful chart to see the different age groups here. This is from the study, which shows religious interest according to various age groups. All right, so the different demographics on the left, 18 to 29-year-olds, 30 to 49, 50 to 64, and 65 and over, and then men and women, and then the gap percentage. And notice the outlier here, in a sense, that the young men, 18 to 29, have. They're the only ones that have a higher ranking, higher percentage here than the women in the four age demographics. And the biggest spread is 65 and over, which is interesting, 14% gap with men and women over 65. There's a 13% in favor of men at 18 to 29. Now, so something has shifted here for young men, 18 to 29, to make them the outlier here compared to all the other age groups. And the question that I have that I don't have the answer for really is what has happened? I think there's been a lot happening in the culture in the last number of years, but I don't have any data that point directly to those things being the impetus for men being more interested in religion. In my head, it makes sense, but I don't see any data yet. Now, overall, let's take a big picture look here, not just at the smaller picture of men 18 to 29. The news is not good for religion in the United States. All of these charts I'm showing you and all these stats show there's a steady decline that's been happening for the past 26 years. It might predate that even, in regard to religious interests. So we as the church, we have our work cut out for us here. Jesus commanded us to make disciples of all nations. Well, we need to make sure we're making disciples in our own nation too. Now, here's another chart that details church attendance. This is important because church attendance is a better indicator even of this spiritual interest, because it's one thing to say you've got interest in spiritual things. It's another thing to actually attend services. Now, you can see the overall decline over the past 26 years, but you can see on the right side of this chart, the young men in the blue, signified by the blue or black line, they've now surpassed young women at the green line, even though it's almost even, 40 to 39% now. Statistically, it's even, but and that's a big step for young men. So it's interesting. Something has happened that has really helped young men regain this interest in spiritual things. Now, here's a chart showing the same data, but it's a bar graph chart, so I think it's even more helpful to see it visually. The different age groups in regard to church attendance and how they differ. So you can see there, once again, men 18 to 29, they're the only ones that have the advantage, even though it's only 1 percentage point here. And then the other age group demographics, 30 to 49, 50 to 64, and 65 plus. And the percentages, and then the gap, the visual bar there at the right-hand side that shows the gap differential. Once again, the highest differential is in the 65 plus range. So men 65 and over, what's going on? Where are you? All right, let's ask this question, because the survey, the study asked this question: does political affiliation play into this at all? Now, the short answer is yes, and I'll get to that in just a second. But it's interesting, Gallup didn't see any big differences here across a variety of variables, such as education, the region of the country you live in, and so on. But it did reveal significant differences when he looked at political party affiliation. Now, in the study, what they did is they grouped not only based on party affiliation, but which way someone leaned. So independents that leaned Democrat, they counted in the Democrat pile. Independents that leaned Republican, they counted in the Republican pile. Okay, so you have Republicans and Republican leaning or leaners, and Democrat leaners when you read through the study. Now check out this chart here. Religious attendance among U.S. adults aged 18 to 29 by party and gender. So it tracks Republican men, Democrat men, and then Republican women and Democrat women. Very interesting how you see the numbers charting there. Since 2018, Democrats or Democratic leaners have remained the same or decreased in church attendance. So from 2018 or so we're on the right quarter of the whole graph. Republican leaners have increased, men by 12%, women by 7%. So the big jump here has been on the Republican side of the aisle in the sense of church attendance, not just religious interest, but church attendance, religious attendance. Yeah, there's a lot more we could talk about, but time won't allow, because to me this is a very interesting study and interesting data. Let me give you a couple of takeaways that I think are helpful for us. First of all, number one, religiosity in America, or religiosity of Americans remains at a low point. All right. So we're starting here on the takeaway with a reality check for us. You've heard, if you come to the church here for any amount of time, you've heard me say it a handful of times, we are not in a Christian nation or a Christian culture. And this is why. This is another point of evidence of why. Things are much different than they were 40 or 50 years ago. So what do we, religiosity of Americans is at a low point. So we need to make sure we are, as churches, as Christians, we need to have a very outward focus. We need to understand we live in a mission field. Mission fields are not overseas. They are right where we put our feet every day, in our nation here, in our community here. So we must be very evangelistically minded as Christians, very gospel-oriented to reach people and help them understand what the gospel is. We need to have a very upbeat, if you will, invite culture in our churches. And stop focusing on ministry just for people who are in the church already. We have to do those things too, yes, but we have to remain focused on reaching people who are not in the church, who are far from Christ, who are, quote unquote, spiritually lost. Number two, women, especially young women, have moved further away from religious interest. So why is this? I don't have the answers, not yet. What's causing their lack of interest? So I think this should sensitize us in the church. How can we reach out to young women? Or it's focused here on young women, but all women. I think there's a change there in all the different age demographics. Why have they become disenchanted with the church? Do they know what the gospel is, or do they have some idea of what the gospel is, but it's wrong, and so they've associated things that aren't accurate or true with the gospel? What can we do to reach out to women? Thirdly, young men are increasing their interest in spiritual things. Praise God for that. I would like to find out, well, what's the cause of that? What's underlying that? Because that might help us in reaching them. But there's an opportunity here. I think we as the church should understand we are in the midst of an opportunity to reach young men with the gospel because they have an interest in spiritual things right now. And it has surged over the past 2 or 3 years. And so, what can we do to reach them, connect with them, to kind of invite them into the church so they can understand what God actually says? Not only about who we are, but how we can have a relationship with Him. There's an opportunity we have for young men to know about Jesus Christ. So let's take advantage of it and think of how can we connect with those young men and bring them closer to the Lord. So whenever we get all this kind of data, these kinds of studies that look at the culture and where things are at spiritually speaking, I think it's always helpful for the church to ask, okay, what's the data? Make sure we have a good sense of what it's telling us, but then what do we do with it? How do you respond to this? What do we need to change in order to seize the moment? What do we need to stop doing that maybe is not helping us seize the moment? And how can we reach people with the gospel? Here are the sources I use for today's video. I would highly encourage you to go to that Gallup study. It's the first source listed, I believe, here on the list. Really interesting study. It's not super long to read through. It's got pictures and charts, so that's helpful for me to track this data, to see it visually. Maybe you're the same way, I don't know. Hey, in my next video, next week, I'm going to cover a little bit of what we talked about today, and that is, why are women leaving the church? I'm going to try and get some answers there and see if we can dig into that a little bit, and maybe that'll help us better reach women with the gospel, better understand how to share the gospel with them and stuff like that, to know where they're coming from. So I'll try and cover that one next week and see if we can't find a few answers on that question. But hey, thanks for taking a few minutes to connect with me on today's Connect video. I hope you can join us this Sunday as we continue our series, Retro Gospel, which is a study of the book of Galatians. It's week 4, and we're in chapter 2. And we'd love for you to be there. Service times are 9:15 is our first service, and then 11 o'clock is our second service on Sunday. And there's a live stream available. If you can't make it here, maybe you work or just can't get out of your house very easily, or maybe you're out of town. I know some of you watch this video and you're out of town. We'd love for you to join us on the live stream. You can do that live or at 9:15 on Sunday morning, or you can just watch it sometime after the fact. But the way you get to the live stream, if you want to watch it live on Sunday morning, you can go to our website on Sunday, and there'll be a link there. Our website's cdobible.org. And there'll be a link there. You can click on that, and that'll take you actually to our YouTube channel. If you go, you can just go straight to our YouTube channel, though. That's probably the quicker way. Go to YouTube, search out Canyon del Oro Bible Church, click on our logo, subscribe, and then join us for the live stream. We'd love to have you. Part of our worship time on Sunday morning and part of the teaching via the live stream if you can't be here in person. Hey, thanks again for taking a few minutes to watch the video today. It's the last full week of May, so I pray you have a blessed week, and I pray you're a blessing to everyone that you meet. Bye-bye.